This is the first time this comic book made it on the Hot 10 list, one of the hottest in the world. But after the last movie the director made, can we trust it? Is it good spec? Comic books are selling like crazy this week, and we're here to tell you the hottest 10 in the world. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button. We have some new appearances of books making the list, and we have some record-breaking sales to discuss.
Hold on, wait a minute. Before we move any further, you gotta show them that CRASHDOWN trailer. You can't tell me after watching this that you're not gonna wanna read this comic.
I co-wrote a book with Fire Guy Ryan, and we have living legend Ben TEMPLESMITH on the art. Enjoy the trailer.
Life beyond our home on Earth is now possible thanks to our galactic research scouting team and advancements in suspended animation and cryotechnology. With the sun's demise imminent, we are now 72 hours from departure for planet Empyrean. With a 95% chance for Earth-like conditions, your efforts will be vital for the successful continuation of our species. On behalf of the entire human race, we here at Apollo Industries thank you for your service. With the dramatic increase in solar radiation, 95% chance for Earth-like conditions. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
So proud of you guys. It looks great. You can order this in previews right now, so holler at your local LCS. Hit that like, slap the subscribe as we jump into number 10 on the list. We have Swamp Thing. Number 1, the first appearance of the second Swamp Thing, Alec Holland.
The director of one of the best X-Men movies of all time, Logan. We have James Mangold attached to write and direct what is being described as a passion project by James Gunn. Of course, when we started charting the course of the DCU, one of the first people I talked to was the super talented James Mangold about writing and directing his passion project, Swamp Thing.
The latest confirmation brings this book back on the Hot 10 list. There's 59 more slabs since we last talked about this book when it hit number 5 back on March 20th. That accounts for 37 9.8s, which had its high sale in December of 2021 when it sold for $7,000. Last GPA sale puts it down just a tad bit at $5,520 in April of this year.
The 6.5 is up 23% when you compare it over the recent 12 months with a recent $232 sale. The 8.5 is selling for $400. That's an increase of 12%. And we saw a 9.0 sell for $575 this past week. That's an increase of 24%. Now, I'm thinking that this is probably a hold out and wait for a possible dip before you purchase and invest in a comic like this, because knowing that we just got the writer and director attached means that this isn't going to happen for years, which means there's plenty of time to score this book cheaper.
Which brings us to number 9 on the list. It's a newcomer, Akira issue number 1, the groundbreaking manga and anime. This is the first English translation in color.
The latest news on Akira is that Taika Waititi, you know him from Thor Love and Thunder, Thor Ragnarok, is attached to direct and write the film. However, this has been in development limbo. We might as well just call it development hell. Since 2002, Warner Brothers has been attached to this for a long time, believing that it's coming soon, according to a Deadline reporter suggesting that this is going to be the next project the director is going to take on. Has a lot of people hopeful, which is why this book is spiking for the first time on our list this week.
According to James Gunn, Taika stepped away from the Akira movie to work on Thor Love and Thunder. But after how that movie played out, do we really trust him with this property? There's a total of 1,349 slabs on the CGC census, which includes 331 9.8s. The record high hit $1,250 in October of 2021. This month, it had a last GPA sale of $525.
This is one of the most influential mangas in mainstream media. We see so many homages to Akira, let alone homages on comic book covers of Akira. We have an 8.5 that's trending up 32% over this last month, selling for $79. The 9.4 sold for $118, an increase of 4%. The 9.6 hit $188, selling for 12%. And the 9.8, the highest, is just above what Jem just reported on, $529, for an increase of 7%. This right here is an affordable key comic that's option. It's a little risky, but I can't see this dropping much more than it already has.
You want to make sure you're up to date on the comic first appearances of beloved manga and anime characters. Make sure to download Key Collector app, which does just that.
You got to know the first Dragon Ball appearance in Naruto. And if you want to support the show directly and enhance your comic collecting, utilize code TOM101 on Key Collector Comics. This is an app I use every single day. I am checking it constantly. I have notifications that let me know when news drops, when directors sign up for movies, when comics start spiking. I find out first from the app, and you can too.
Speaking of key collector categories, what about the first appearance of sound effects in comic books? Number 8 on the list does just that. Amazing Spider-Man 36, the first time we see thwip.
That's right, the first time we hear the sound of Spider-Man's web shooter. This is also the first appearance of the Looter. Why do you think it's spiking?
Well, CBR did name the Looter in their top 10 list of Spider-Man villains who haven't been used in the movies yet, but I don't think this has anything to do with the Looter. More so, it's a Silver Age Spider-Man key and the first sound effect thwip.
As of the date of this filming, we have been told that we are about to get a trailer drop soon featuring the first glimpse of the upcoming Sony film called Kraven. That's right, Kraven's not only getting his own movie, but it's gonna feature the Rhino as well. And get this, it's slated to be an R-rated film. So if we can see the Rhino, why couldn't we see the Looter?
All right, enough with the Looter. This Silver Age Spider-Man book's got 1,574 slabs on the CGC census. There are 5 9.8s, and the last GPA sale was its record high, where it sold for $13,200 in September of 2021.
There's only 23 copies graded at a 9.6, and the record high was back in 2010, where it sold for a crazy amount of money, $5,500. I suspect that's because these are the early CGC days. Very few copies were likely on the census then. Well, more recent sales put a 9.6 at $2,988. We've talked in length about Spider-Man comics having a variable applied to the collectible because most people prefer Spider-Man comics regardless about what's happening on the screen. And we see books like this spike regularly for no spec reasons. 4.5 sold for $79. That's an increase of 3% when you compare it over the recent 12 months. 6.5, $199, an increase of 8%.
The 8.5 is up 10%, selling for $413, and the 9.0 is up 22%, selling for $563.
Although Logan, Wolverine's first appearance, took place between Hulk 180 and 182, his claws were out the whole time. It wouldn't be until Giant Size X-Men 1 where we hear the classic snicked sound.
Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, would also first appear in Giant Size X-Men #1, but you wouldn't see the signature bamf from his teleport until X-Men 95.
There's a whole category just for these sounds also on Key Collector. But enough of that. Let's talk about Batman Adventures 12 at number 7, because I feel like I'm in the minority. All my friends loved the Joaquin Phoenix Joker film that came out, 5 years ago now? It wasn't my thing. I saw it once. What about you?
Same. I saw it one time. I enjoyed it, but never really had the urge to rewatch it. And I gotta be honest, I don't know how excited I am about this new movie either, but collectors are. This has been on the list week after week. It actually reached number 7 on the Hot 10 just last week, and there's 13 more slabs on the census since then, bringing that total number up to $8,200. There's one more 9.8 than last week, bringing that up to $1,141. The record high still holding strong at $4,551 from May of 2021.
Considering that this is more of an Elseworlds type of story, something that's not connected to the DCU at large, I am not too sure that Lady Gaga is going to uplift the value of the first appearance of Harley Quinn as much as a Margot Robbie has. But the 7.0 is up, selling for $400 for an increase of 3%. The 9.4 is selling for $815. That's an increase of 3% as well. The 9.6 is selling for $1,440. That's an increase of 34%. And the 9.8 hit $3,030. That's an increase of 10%. I was recommending members be patient with this book because you could secure it for under $3,000 at a 9.8. And I have a feeling that you'll be able to do that still as we approach the movie and certainly after.
You know, with all this set footage and pictures we're getting, you would think the movie's coming soon, but we're still over a year and a half away from this movie.
And now we're at the list at number 6 with a repeat offender. So many Star Wars properties have been announced. So many things in the future that's coming. So many books and Siths that are being spec'd on. Jedis that are being spec'd on. Mandalorians that are being spec'd on. But all the hot comic books have to do with the upcoming Ahsoka Tano series. We have Star Wars Kanan, The Last Padawan, number 6. The first appearance of Sabine Wren, Ezra Bridger, and Hera.
This reached number 3 on last week's Hot 10, and 6 more slabs have been added to the census, bringing that total up to 2015. There's 912 CGC 9.8s. The last GPA sale is down $95 since last week, selling for $330, and that record high still holding strong at $900 from May of 2021.
I've gone on record multiple times. I spec'd on this book, their cameo appearances in issue number 1, as well as Darth Vader 3, the first appearance of Dr. Aphra, thinking that this would happen much sooner than it's about to. Well, I overpaid then, and right now this book can be purchased for half of what I did just a year ago.
Sales are down overall since last week, but we have some still performing above their 12-month averages. The 9.2 sold for $120, 18% higher. The 9.6 sold for $210, 17% higher. And the 9.8 sold for $450, which is still 6% above.
Books are down, but are trending up and selling for less. That means that the supply is meeting the demand. I suspect there's a lot of people that are in the same boat as I am that may have overpaid a little bit who are getting out now.
Moving on to number 5, this is a book that doesn't really need any outside media attention to spike up. It's a classic, iconic issue, Silver Surfer, issue number 4. The classic Surfer vs. Thor cover with the second appearance of Mephisto.
An iconic cover that stands on its own in regards to key worthiness by John Buscema, and the first interior work, the inks, done by Sal Buscema. And this is all because of the iconic cover that sells perpetually well, as well as Sacha Baron Cohen's spec. Yes, it is rumored that he's going to be in the Ironheart series, Agatha series, as well as his own Disney Plus special.
I can't believe we're talking Mephisto spec. Have we not learned anything from WandaVision? I think this sounds a little bit more safe though. We haven't spoke about this book since it hit the Hot 10 on January 23rd, and there are 202 more slabs on the census since then, bringing that total up to 4,386. Let's see, 24 9.8s, the last GPA sale being the high sale as well, selling for $90,000, and that was in June of 2021.
We've seen a tremendous drop for blue chip keys, and this is definitely a blue chip. The 9.6, however, which only has 75 copies graded on the census, last sold March of this year for $31,200. The heights were reached just in 2022 April for $33,600. It's barely moved, at least in high grade. The 9.4, which has one brand new comic added to the census, has a total of 132 copies graded. And the high sale was back in November 2021, where it hit $9,900. The most recent sale was also in March of this year for $6,900.
Yeah, the 9.4 took a worse hit than that 9.6. Strong sale on the 9.6. The 1.0 just sold for $255, 18% above its 12-month average. The 5.0 sold for $840. The 6.0 sold for $1,114. The 7.5 is up 12%, selling for $1,850, and the 8.5 is up 10%, selling for $2,500.
With Ironheart getting the Iron Man technology focus, looking like they're going to go up against the Hood, which is more of a magical focus, I suspect that the supernatural being involved makes a lot of sense when you consider Agatha coming, as well as the possibility of Mephisto. Silver Surfer spec, according to Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you can't have Galactus without Silver Surfer, and you can't have Silver Surfer without Mephisto.
You knew this book was going to show up somewhere on the list. It was just a matter of where. Coming in at number 4, we have the first appearance of Ahsoka Tano, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, issue number 1.
Much like Star Wars Kanan, the Last Padawan number 6, we're seeing supply meet demand. As we approach the show, members are selling, especially considering the heights this book reached was nearly $4,000 back in 2021. The most recent sale for a 9.8 was $1,875. It's selling for half.
I would expect to see a lot of movement on this book as the series is going to debut this August. We have a record-breaking sale for the newsstand, a CGC 8.5, which sold for $975 back in September of last year, up 3%, now selling for $1,000.
It didn't stop there. We saw a 9.2 newsstand sell for an increase of 7%, selling for $1,550. Then we have the direct market copies, more affordable. The 5.0 sold for $421. The 9.0 sold for $850. That's an increase of 24%. We even saw a 9.2 sell for the same amount, $850, for an increase of 7%. And the 9.6 sold for $1,150 for an increase of 2%.
With all the Star Wars news going on, this book found its way back on the list, coming in at number 3. Star Wars issue 1. We haven't talked about this book for about 3 weeks now since it hit number 1 on the Hot 10. There are 121 more slabs on the census since then, bringing that total to 14,207.
There's a total of 755 9.8s graded on the census, an increase of 6 since we last chatted about this book. So congratulations to the members who cracked their case and gave those books a press. Well, this is a comic book that experienced a huge uptick during the full nostalgia cycle swing that we saw back in 2020. And this book could have been secured at a 9.8 for under $1,000 for years. So seeing a dip because there's been a dip. The heights this book reached was in April 2022 when it sold for $9,600. The most recent 9.8 sale puts it at $4,560, and that happened this month. Sounds aggressive, but considering that just a couple years prior, it was selling for $3,000 less or more, shows that this book is unique amongst the rest and is spiking because of the overall Star Wars hype.
We've got a huge sale in the 35-cent price variant, which last sold for $4,050 back in 2021, up 11%, now selling for $4,500.
You're looking for that 35-cent price tag. It looks different than the other 35-cent reprints, and you'll know you have it if the 5 looks like it was printed a little bit lower than the 3. I digress because we have a 7.5 standard copy selling for $238 for an increase of 4%, 8.5 selling for $350, an increase of 21%, the 9.2 selling for $517 for an increase of 12%, and the 9.4 selling for $710, an increase of 25%.
And the 9.6 is up 22%, selling for $1,250 for the first appearance of most of the main characters from the original Star Wars trilogy.
Number 2 on the list is Daredevil 183. I think this is a great buy for the price that it's going for because it's spiking. Yes, because of Disney Plus. We have the first battle between Daredevil and Punisher. We know that Daredevil Born Again is coming. It's going to be a very unique series, one of the longest we've seen hit Disney Plus, but also the reprisal of John Bernthal's Frank Castle, The Punisher, a Frank Miller Key classic cover that is only selling for $300 at a 9.8. It makes sense why members are buying this book.
I think fans are excited to see John Bernthal reprise that role. We talked about this book 2 weeks ago and it reached number 6 on the Hot 10. 10 more slabs have been added to the census since then, bringing that total up to 1,875. The 9.8 has 1 extra copy, bringing that total up to $477. The record high was $350 in January of 2022, and the last GPA sale was $305 in this month, not too far off.
The 8.5 is up 14%, the 9.0 is up 40%, the 9.2 is up 3%, and the 9.4 is up 26%. You can get a 9.6 for $125. That's an increase of 26% when you compare it over the recent 12 months. And the 9.8 hit $307. Yes, it's an increase of 20%, but $300 is such a great deal on a classic Daredevil Punisher key.
And the newsstand in a 9.8 just sold for $500. That's 17% above its 12-month average.
Join me this weekend in Vegas. By the time you're watching this, I'm already there on Whatnot all weekend long with Davis Ryder, Carnivore Comics, Comic Exposure, My Dad Comic Pops, The Golden Age Guru. They have variants that they're dropping. We have a Guardians of the Galaxy Ben Harvey Virgin variant we're dropping. We're going to be there at the Final Boss launch party. We did variants with Ivan Tao. We did variants with Davis Ryder. Come join all the fun because what happens in Vegas, well, it's going to be on video, so you'll be able to see it.
I know you guys are going to kill it over at Amazing Con. Have a good time. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Moving on to number 1, the hottest comic book in the world. You guessed it. It's the first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, Star Wars, Heir to the Empire, Issue 1.
The heights this book reached was $2,300. I purchased it for $1,400 at a 9.8, and the last copy sold this past week for $1,030. Is this a good time to buy what could be the next big bad, the next Darth Vader of Star Wars lore that's going to hit the screen?
Buckle up for these sales, and let's start with the newsstand. A CGC 8.0 sold for $200, 16% above its 12-month average. The newsstand 9.6 sold for $700. That's 10% above.
And that's a huge increase because the 9.0 was selling for $200 weeks ago. I know, I sold one. We also have a 7.0 direct market copy that's up 7%. The 8.5 is up 43%. The 9.0 is up 34%. And the 9.2 is selling for $200, what the newsstand was going for a couple weeks ago, for an increase of 25%.
And the grades are keeping up. The 9.4 sold for $250, 16% above the average. The 9.6 is 35% above, selling for $485. And then we have the CGC 9.8 selling for $1,122 at its height this week for an 8% increase over that 12 month.
Keep in mind, that's almost $200 more than a recent sale that a member was able to snag, likely on auction. So be patient. However, if you're starting to feel the Star Wars Grand Admiral Thrawn bug, you're starting to feel that FOMO bug bite, you may want to secure it for that extra couple $100 because clearly members believe in it. It's the hottest book in the world. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button. We've been making this video every single week for over 3 years for the Comic Fam, covering the health of the comic book market. And as always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
don't forget to hit up your LCS. Order Crashdown. We would love your support. Enough said. Comic fam, look at this. The latest previews guide. Look at this. This is an interview I did with Whatnot Publishing. It's in the previews guide. And look at, there's Crashdown. You can order it now. And oh, we get more than one page. We have a full 2-page spread of the covers. That's pretty cool, right? Oh, there's more. Previews of the book. So many pages. Shout out to Whatnot Publishing for making that happen. You can find us on Whatnot all weekend long because as you're watching this, I'm prepping a show for Vegas. So join me at Amazing Con tonight because we're gonna get this out early so that you can come join us. I'm giving away an awesome book. I'm giving away a Werewolf by Night 32 this weekend. We have multiple drops. Come join us and we'll see you soon.